Hi, this is Trace Atkins, your host on Country Music Countdown. This one takes us back to February 2001. A pair of unlikely friends shared destiny on the high banks of the Daytona International Speedway. It was a day we'll never forget. A day of triumph and tragedy. If you're out there listening, Mikey, this one's for you.
So many people, so many plans, but my mama said, leave it up to the man. All of the answers come by and by. It all happens in the blink of an eye.
The Daytona 500. Whose face will grace victory lane today?
I got dues to pay. I never thought that it would go this way. I never thought about saying goodbye. And just don't ask me why it all happened.
I think it's going to be exciting racing. We'll see something you probably hadn't ever seen on Fox.
Michael Waltrip leads the Daytona 500. Dale Earnhardt Jr.
And the man who owns those cars, Dale Earnhardt.
Pretty impressive in DEI cars up there in the lead. Dale Earnhardt into DEI stands for Waltrip, Earnhardt Jr., Earnhardt Sr. They want one of those cars to win. Whoa! Look at Earnhardt. Sterling got into Earnhardt. Dale will do everything he can to Sterling behind him because this is a chess match at high speed. Michael Waltrip has never won a Cup race. Every driver dreams of winning the Daytona 500. Michael Waltrip dreams just of winning any race. To break that big over streak, over 462. Everybody said, why did Dale put Michael in this car? Folks, here's why he put him in there. Michael wants to win a race worse than anybody out there. And he's not going to give up that lead without a fight. Your first ever race on Fox, you think it'd be like this? That's the greatest race in the world. Stay under him, Dale Jr. Just stay under him, buddy. To the flag. Come on, you got it. You got it. You got it. You got it. You got it.
I've never been to Victory Lane before. I began to ask Buffy, where's Dale? And I asked Ty, you know, how come Dale's not here? And then my friend, Kenny Schrader, he came to Victory Lane. And I never will forget, because he comes up and says, I just want you to know, I saw Dale, and it ain't good. I don't think people, no, let me back up. So people are obviously capable of handling the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. God made us that way. But I don't know how many people have had to experience them within seconds of each other.
Microphone like this when I'm talking to you, and I'll say it's gonna be tough. So just pay close attention, listen to me, and then you go. I think I got this right.
17 years later, I haven't gone to therapy, and I still struggle with it. But everything on earth happens for a reason. Our hairs are counted, our days are numbered, and we're gonna leave this world when we're supposed to leave it. Life's hard. You're gonna have ups and downs, and I'll be darned if my two of the biggest ones of my life came crammed together, and you gotta persevere. You gotta keep pushing. When I was born in Owensboro, Kentucky, it was a 3-bedroom house, and there were 7 of us living in it. So I shared a room with my sister until I was 7 or 8 years old. Eventually, everybody moved out. It was just me and Mom and Dad. And we lived right there in town, and I was always trying to find somebody to race bikes with. I remember, I would organize 500-lap bike races. Now, we'd go in a circle 500 times because that was like a NASCAR race. My brother was the reason why I was such a dreamer. You know, when I was born, he was 16. And so every day of my life that I knew of, he was racing.
They're 600 feet away from the line. Baker goes to the inside. Waltrip has won it.
Darrell Waltrip in Victory Lane for the 10th time this season.
He had figured out a way. My dad was a Pepsi man. My mama worked at the grocery store, and he had figured out a way to talk them into buying him a go-kart. And Mom and Dad kept helping, and he won on his go-kart, and he kept winning. And while there was no extra money, they figured out a way to help Daryl. And I said, I want to do that too. I want to be just like my big brother.
One thing I can tell you about Michael, he has a big heart. He loves to give. He loves to help people. He's proven that time and time again. He probably a little bit opposite of me. I might be a little bit selfish. He is a good man, and he is a good brother. He's a better brother to me than I was to him, unfortunately. But I think in a lot of ways we've made up for that.
We would go to the little tracks in our area to watch my brother race, and that's just how I was raised. Was traveling from town to town and going to the races on Saturday night and Sunday night. Mom and Dad would come with the car loaded up, packed up on a Wednesday afternoon, get me out of school, and we would start our trek to Daytona. Through the night to be there on Thursday morning for the qualifying races. I never will forget going through that tunnel the first time and coming out the other side and looking up and seeing those banks. I mean, they were glorious to me. And how massive those turns were, how high they were banked, and what a huge track this was. It just intrigued me completely. I was so into that place, and getting to watch my brother race there, and it just continued to build the energy and my enthusiasm for one day getting the chance to race there. You know, I told Mom and Dad, my buddy down the road's got a go-kart, and it's $500, and I'm gonna be able to race. And they said, well, we don't have $500, and you don't have $500. So how do you think you're gonna do this? Daryl had a really nice car when he came to town. He was winning trophies, and heck, I even saw him holding a big check once that said $1,000. I said, I only need half of that. Like, I got this. I know what I'll do, Mom. I'll call Daryl. But I remember when I was 12, climbing up on the kitchen table and dialing up Daryl, telling him I wanted to go racing just like him. He's like, brother, it's a long road. Lightning very rarely strikes twice. And Mom and Dad don't want to go through all that again. I put them through a lot. And I don't think it's in the cards for you. And I'm like, all right, okay, well, I'll see you later. And hung up, and I thought, well, damn, that didn't go anything near like I thought it was gonna. My brother Bobby, he had a go-kart. I convinced Bobby that I could drive that go-kart if he would give me a chance.
I'll remember when they came to Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I live in Franklin, not far from there. And Bobby called me and said, Michael's gonna run his first race at the go-kart track over in Murfreesboro. Why don't you come and watch?
And so we go to the racetrack, and I get on Bobby's go-kart.
And he goes into the first turn of that go-kart race. He's in the grass, he's in the dirt, he's off the track. He comes back up in front of the pack. wins the race.
My first ever race, first time I ever drove anything, I won. And I left there that day thinking, I am good at this, and I will be a race car driver.
So I didn't give him enough credit for the ability he had. And I didn't give him enough credit for the desire he had. And I didn't give him enough credit for the resolve he had. And so as time went by, we were not close. He's over here, I'm over here. And he was doing his thing, and I'm doing my thing. And I'm fighting tooth and nail with everybody else. I don't need my brother involved.
You know, I had this plan. I'm gonna race at Kentucky Motor Speedway, the same track that Darrell started at 16 years earlier. I'm gonna move up to the Darlington Dash Series. That's the 4-cylinder mini modified cars they would race on Saturday. I'm gonna win the championship in Dash. And the next year, I'm moving to the Busch Series. I'm gonna run the Saturday races in the Busch Series and win that championship. And then after that, on Sunday, we're going cup racing. That's what the kid was dreaming. I had an opportunity to drive a mini modified car at Kentucky Motor Speedway, and I needed $400 sponsorship. If you don't have a sponsor, you don't go racing. My dad said, why don't you go see Fred Geip down at Geip Automotive, tell him your plan, see if he'll sponsor you. And he said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you $400 credit on parts. You just have to put my name on your car. I'm like, deal. And I won the feature. In '82, this ride in the Darlington Dash Series opened up. I had sponsorship from a gentleman named Bill Borden. Guess how I got that sponsorship?
Darrell Waltrip.
Darrell Waltrip. Darrell has come to the party now.
I helped him when I could, when I guess, quite honestly, in a selfish way, when it was convenient, I helped him. But not every day.
You know, I'd gone from, we're not gonna be able to work this out, son. It's not gonna work for you, to go-karts, to the mini modified Kentucky Motor Speedway Track Championship, to champion of the Dash Series in NASCAR. It was incredible how well I did and how good I could drive. You know what's crazy? When you're a kid, you don't really understand how unrealistic it would be for me to be able to do what we were able to eventually do. I just felt like a kid, like a normal kid that happened to wind up in the middle of some extraordinary circumstances.
Once in a great while, in every sport, a superstar emerges. Babe Ruth in baseball, in boxing, Jack Dempsey. And during 1967, another superstar emerged. His name is Richard Petty.
Richard Petty is the most successful racer in the history of NASCAR. He had a nickname, they called him the King.
Richard Petty has won the 200th race of his incomparable Grand National stock car racing career.
So let's talk about the subject of our movie here, Mr. Michael Waltrip. He's very, very grateful to you.
Before you do that, I just want to say thank you for coming. And I'm going to leave when you talk about me, so in case you say something bad, I don't have to listen to it.
What if I say something good?
I just want you to know how much I appreciate you.
Amen.
Good morning.
I feel bad I helped get him started, so that.
I want everybody here to know how much I love that man, how much I appreciate it.
Okay, Mikey. Thank you, buddy. I really don't know exactly the first time I ever seen Mikey. But somehow or another, him and Kyle, my son, got together somewhere. Michael moved in with him for a while.
So in '83, when I moved in with Kyle, eventually giving me a job at Petty Enterprises. Petty Enterprises. You hear what I'm saying? This is the most successful team in the history of NASCAR. They not only race cars, they build cars. They manufacture these incredible racing machines. So one day I was getting ready to leave work. It was about 45 minutes to drive to Kyle's house. Mrs. Petty, Linda, walks up and she says, Michael, it's a long way out there to Baden Lake every day for you to make that drive. We live right around the corner. Why don't you just move in with us? And now I'm eating popcorn at midnight, sitting on the couch with Richard Petty. And we're talking about the race that happened that day. And we're talking about the car, the core. I love the way he says core.
Well, the big deal was that Mikey really wanted to go to Cup. And, you know, he'd already run some Baby Grand races and some other stuff.
And I thought, in 1984, it's the Busch Series, just like this kid planned.
And I told him, I said, you know, forget working your way up there. Just go start at the top.
If you want to be a Cup driver, you got to get in a Cup car. You're wasting your time with those little Baby Grand cars or running the Busch Series. You want to be a Cup driver, you just start right now.
In that way, you don't have to relearn from one kind of race car to another kind of race car.
And that's the first time I'd ever heard that. I thought I had to run the Busch Series. And so I said, all right, how do you think I should do that, Rich? And he said, well, you're gonna have to figure that out on your own. I don't know. I don't have no car. I don't have no core for you.
Welcome to one of the biggest single-day sporting events in the world. You're at the World 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway in North Carolina.
And so Richard Petty tells me to go see Humpy Wheeler. Humpy is the promoter at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Humpy Wheeler sends me to Dick Bayer, and Dick owned a race car. And I said, Bud, I want to race a Cup race. And he said, well, if you can bring us some sponsorship, then you can race my car. And Humpy wound up figuring out a local business that would buy me a couple sets of tires so that I could drive Dick's car. This is huge. I'm on the main stage now. This is big. And I think I showed up as Darrell's little brother.
Looking back through the field, Mike Waltrip, Darrell's brother, makes his first Grand National start today.
That was an interesting day, too. Darrell was in the race. He's my brother. Richard was in the race. I was living with him. And then you got the driver, Dale Earnhardt, whose name is the Intimidator. And Dale never backed down from anything. He was the toughest competitor in the history of NASCAR. And when I say tough, hard to race, hard to beat. And then if you wanted to get in a scrap after the race, you know, he would beat you up. He was a badass.
A two-bit man with a heart of gold won't save your soul. I got no time to play these games. World is cruel, but I'm no fool.
I was going to get back to him and just rattle him. I wasn't going to wreck him, but I got to him and just turned him around. Didn't mean to really turn around, meant to rattle his cage over.
I've been traveling for too long and looking for what I don't know. And I've been searching for these scars.
The guy tries to cut you off, you stand your ground. And a lot of times it comes out bad, but you know, a lot of times you win races too.
Well, Dale Earnhardt has gone out in front, but it has not been without incident here. Let's take a look at how he did it back in lap number 72. There you see, Bodine in the 5. He gets trapped on a slow car. And as he gets around, Earnhardt just drives around in the dirt.
Goes through
Now
the
let's
dirt.
That's a good example of what Earnhardt will do to get in the lead in the race.
How's that for a shot of the tire marks from Earnhardt on the side of Bodine's car?
Well, Dale was really an aggressive race driver. The first time I remember hearing his name was back in the 70s. My brother was working at a little local racetrack, and I was still driving. He said, if you ever want to hire a race driver, you got to hire this Dale Earnhardt. He was racing Butch Lindley last night. He come across the start-finish line with 2 wheels up on the wall and won the race. He would drive that car, and you never had to question that you wasn't getting 100% out of it. I remember a few run-ins with Dale and Darrell, and one that I remember probably as good as any was at Richmond.
And here they come. Crowd's up, excited about this one.
Running out of time. Darrell Waltrip running out of time.
Not happy. Now Waltrip on the inside. Side by side. Down to the inside. Oh! 4 cars. There it goes.
There's Bodine into the fence. Joe Ruttman spins around. There's Dale Waltrip's Chevrolet, and it is torn up.
Well, he wrecked me. When we weren't friends, we wrecked a lot. You know, he would look over me, I'd look over at him. Look, you're not going to win. Well, you're not going to win. One of us is going to get wrecked.
That was one of our first finds. I never will forget Dale sitting in the car, all leaned over like he would, and they were interviewing him. And
Who do you feel hit who on that last thing between you and Darrell?
I just racing. I ain't gonna, me and Darrell's got to race week to week, and ain't nothing to it.
And his mustache went real wide and smiled. And I think that's why they decided to find us, was that smile.
When you saw the black number 3 come up behind you, you knew that you were going to have to do something. You were going to have to go faster than he was going. You were going to have to get out of his way, or you're going to have to race him to keep your position. And I think that's where the name Intimidator came from. When you saw him come up in your rearview mirror, the intimidation factor became part of the sport.
I can't tell you how many times I'd be racing him. I'd finally get by him. I go, ha, ha, ha. I got by him. And then I look in the mirror and I'd say, you idiot. What'd you do that for? Now he's behind you and you know what's coming.
The coolest thing about him was he had that big old bushy mustache and an open face helmet. Air coming over a car has a certain way when another car is next to it. He could feel it on his face. He would get to a certain spot on another guy's car and he feels the air inside the car change and he could sense it and feel it. Then he would take advantage of whatever momentum he could pull out of it. I think Dale just turned on all his senses, not just his eyes.
Now here's the helmet that we're talking about. Most of the drivers now run a full face helmet with a full chin bar, but Earnhardt is one of a few that prefers the open face helmet.
Well, there's pros and cons. Dale is convinced that
The helmet deal, you shouldn't be talking about the helmet deal. It's the safest helmet in Winston Cup racing today.
Well, but listen, you got to understand something. All I hear is, oh, Earnhardt, he can see the wind. Now, you know you're a smart man. Ain't nobody can see the wind.
If it's blowing in your face, you can't.
Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
That was my saying that Dale could see air at these racetracks. He would know where the air would be coming off of a car. It was almost like he could see it, so I said he could see it.
I've never been around someone who was so self-aware. He knew what was going on in the engine shop. He knew what was going on in the fab shop. He knew what was going on with the tire companies. He knew what was going on with the marketing companies. I would say from a grand scale, he had enough information, insight to every aspect of the industry.
The pit road is a big thing that you got to remember. You run fast here and you don't think you're going that fast coming down pit road. You get in brakes and start sliding, it's going to slide to the inside.
He was the gravitational pull for pretty much everyone, and I don't think he ever asked for it. But there was a lot of times when he didn't want it. Everyone could relate to him, even though he was probably one of the sport's biggest icons.
Every man on every crew has come out to the edge of pit lane to congratulate the man who has dominated everything there is to win in this sport.
There's really only one Richard Petty. Richard Petty was the king. For some reason, Dale Earnhardt just seemed like, if you're going to get to a scrap, I want to have him on my side. And if I want to have a beer, I want to have it with Dale. He represented the guy who came out of a mill town, blue-collar guy, had to survive, thrived, and never forgot who he was, how he got there.
His style off the racetrack was very warm, very personable. Loved the outdoors.
I know there's two Dale Earnhardts, but he didn't want you knowing that. You know that he had a heart of gold, and he cared about people. Not many people did know it. And then there's the shrewd businessman that's building this empire. He's just intensely competitive, obviously. Everybody knows who he was on the track. So you got the Intimidator versus Darrell's little brother.
Back at Charlotte Motor Speedway in the World 600, the longest racing distance on this NASCAR circuit.
As I come off turn 2, he was coming up to lap me, and I mean, my concentration, my focus wavered a bit. And because of what a great driver he was, he's like, I better watch Darrell's little brother. He's probably gonna slide up. And at the last minute, when I slid up, we're running 160 miles an hour, remember, but he's like pointing straight at me with his open face helmet and his bubble goggles. And it scared the shit out of me. Man, I almost wrecked Dale Earnhardt. That would be bad on many levels. And his warning to me was focus. It wasn't like, you dumbass. It was more of a lesson to me. That's what I took from it. Was like, you better figure this out.
And good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins. Welcome to Darlington. This was the very first super speedway built for NASCAR racing back in 1950.
Darlington is the toughest track on the circuit. Its nickname is the track Too Tough to Tame. It's narrow, it's fast, it's slippery, especially on a hot September Labor Day weekend. I mean, you can't imagine how hot it gets in a car at Darlington.
Now look at Michael Waltrip as he closes in on the leader, Sterling Marlin. He may be looking for the lead here coming out of turn number 2 and down the backstretch. Michael Waltrip passes Sterling Marlin and takes over the lead.
You'd think, who's going to win Darlington? Dale Earnhardt. It's the track Too Tough to Tame. And who's tougher than Dale Earnhardt? Well, that day I was. We led the most laps, over 200 laps out in front at Darlington.
Michael Waltrip may be having some terminal problems here. Boy, this will be a shame because he has been unbelievable today here at Darlington.
He may have a flat tire. It might be just a simple flat tire because he went up almost off the wall.
Well, that's what they're saying. Might be a problem. I think he may have a tire going down. That's why the car got awfully high and brushed the wall just a lap or so ago over there.
I just sat there painfully waiting while Davey Allison and Ricky Rudd drove by, and they ran 1-2, and I finished 3rd that day. The way we'd been running competitively, I had began to feel like I belonged. And I was at a point in my career where I said, you know, I can do this. I'm gonna win one of these races soon. I know I am. A win's coming.
Oh, no, a car just turned down. One car just turned over.
It's Michael.
Trouble. That is Clint Boyer in the 29 car and the 99 of Michael Waltrip.
Michael Waltrip in second spot. Davey Allison just up in front on the point.
How's Michael doing out there? He's got to have a smile a mile wide.
Yeah, I guess he does right now.
Just coming out of turn number 4, Michael Waltrip, number 30. Looks like it's lost the cylinder.
Up until 1984, I'd won at everything. I looked like I was the next Richard Petty. When I didn't win, when I got to the Cup Series, that was a real reality check for me that I think I needed. Understanding that, you know, it wasn't going to be a cakewalk.
Michael Waltrip, a fine third place finish today. Michael, you kind of rolled the dice there at the end, and it didn't quite work out.
Hey, Chuck, are you going to fire him this week?
No way. I was never going to do it. We're going to be together a long time. He's a great guy and a great driver.
Well, Michael, I'm glad to see all these firing rumors put to rest.
You know, I've been fired 600 times this week. Thrown out of my own ride. So everybody says. Of course, my car owner, Chuck Ryder, he's as solid as a rock, and I appreciate the world out of him. My girlfriend, Buffy, who I'm fixing to ask to marry me one of these days. Hey, you marry me?
Hey, were you serious, Michael?
Yeah.
You were?
I got your ring in the truck. I just didn't know when to give it to her. I never did it before, so I didn't know how to do it.
Buffy, what about that? Hey, guys, what do we do now? I don't know what to do now.
I first met Michael when I was in college, when I worked for the PR and merchandising licensing company that handled all of Dale's stuff, Michael's stuff. In fact, I lost my job because I started dating Michael. Not from, Dale didn't let me go, but the other guy that owned the company that with Dale, or was his partner, didn't seem to think that that would work, so. He had as much confidence as anybody that he would win a cup race, and I did too. It's hard. I mean, I can remember sitting, you know, in a car in the infield of a racetrack at 5 in the morning just to beat traffic, and, you know, him just being completely consumed with qualifying and if he was gonna, you know, make the race, and you know, I would be sitting there knowing that my fate, the whole mood of the whole weekend was going to be set based on qualifying. And that's just kind of how we lived our life, so.
We were at Bristol, started in the back and made my way to the front.
Number 30, Michael Waltrip, has passed 2 or 3 cars up on the outside, so he's pretty brave getting up there.
And as I came off turn 2,
back up front, L.D. Ottinger now getting chased.
Bad crash over in turn 2. Michael Waltrip has hit the wall hard. The car is upside down, and you can see the car is really torn up.
for some reason, I was the first dumbass to ever hit right where the Armco steel and concrete came together. I clobbered into the concrete and the car just disintegrated. Or as Darrell would say in his interview, it disintegrated, which is what we called it in Kentucky, evidently. But anyway, the car blew up and the crowd went silent and just knew they had seen Michael Waltrip die. And some of the competitors run out to try to see what they could do. And when they pulled the metal back, there I sat.
Darrell, what an unbelievable crash that your little brother Michael had.
Just praise God, Benny, he's alive. I was standing looking right at it, and I couldn't move. I mean, I just froze. I never seen anything like that in my life. The car just disintegrated, and I knew he was in it. I thought he was hurt. I walked up there, and the car is gone, everything's gone, and The roll cage is all bowed up. I looked at him, he looked up at me and winked. So, Mom, Dad, he's a Waltrip. He's got a pretty hard head.
I was still sitting in my seat. There was no steering wheel in front of me. It was over there somewhere. And there was no floorboard under me. My feet were on the track. But I appeared to be okay, or at least in one piece. When they got there, I was coming to because I hadn't hit my head. I just got my breath back. And so, you know, I'm like, I'm fine. So I get out of the car, and they take me to the infield care center, and we get to the infield care center. We get to the infield care center, and one of the first people there was Dale. My brother came, you know, and Dale was there, and these are tears of joy. This makes me so happy to remember. But he comes in and says, boy, remember this is a guy a couple years ago that tried to straighten me out, and he came in there and he looked at me and just shook his head and he said, you're one tough son of a bitch, I'll tell you that, and turned around and walked out. and everybody in there laughed, and so the reason why I'm crying is because, you know, obviously I am one tough son of a bitch, first of all, but secondly, it was so awesome that we'd come from the point where the toughest driver in NASCAR, who had to straighten out Dale's little brother, now all of a sudden has called me a tough son of a bitch. And so when my buddies come in, they started letting people in. They're like, you all right? Yeah, I'm fine. I said, guess what, y'all? Dale Earnhardt said, I'm a tough son of a bitch. I'll take that.
I met Michael in the late 80s. During that process when I was a sports writer, and I would talk to Dale, and he would talk about the tire at Richmond is so bad, and I'm talking about a Dover race, and you know, and the aerodynamics there, and such there, and torque in my engine. Like, that's how he would talk about it. And you talk to Michael about the Dover race, and he would go, they got a really nice crab shack there. I really like to go get crabs there, and I really like to go do this. And like his whole outlook at things were different. That didn't make him any less intense as a race car driver. His life was around many more things. So people didn't take him as serious as they took other drivers, because Michael was fun-loving Michael. A very strange event happened. It was probably '93. Dale called me and he said, I just got this yacht. We're gonna have down to the Bahamas in June. He said, I want you to go. I thought that was like, you know, winning the lottery, and it was. And he goes, yeah, Michael's going too. I'm like, Michael who? And he goes, Michael Waltrip. And I was like, okay. This is this most strange combination of three people. And so that's where I saw the relationship with Michael and Dale start.
You guys will be surprised. This is Sunday Money, and this is our dining room. This is where Michael Waltrip sat.
Right there. That play right there.
Waltrip sat. This is where Ty Norris sits. This is where Elizabeth sits.
That's right.
Teresa, Diana, and Norris sits. This is where Ralph Dale sits.
Ralph Dale.
Taylor eats downstairs in the bed watching.
Probably so.
Okay, and here's Michael now.
Yeah. Turn it over.
I'd like to add to that, he said.
Here's Steve.
I feel like Dale always brought out the best in Michael. You know, he made him happy.
Hey, Mike, you gotta get some of these right here. Oh, I ain't got these, mate. Beer shorts, yeah.
Your what shorts?
No, these ain't them. Well, here they are. Here it is. Pocket extra beer. Beer shorts.
A lot of people think Michael's happy all the time. He can put on a good act, but Dale truly made him happy as a friend.
Dad and Michael's relationship to me was pretty odd. There's an age difference there. Dad and Daryl were, you know, fierce competitors. They were friends, but at the same time, they were competitive on and off the track in life, you know. And Dad was hanging out with his brother, who was much younger, and I just didn't see Dad and Michael being compatible as far as having a friendship. It just.
I think Dale loved Michael's fun-loving character, and when he went to the Bahamas, he just wanted to have fun, but it turned into more than just a guy you're racing on the racetrack, more than just Darrell Waltrip's brother. They became friends. I know Dale paid attention to everything Michael did, and I just think that Dale always believed more in Michael, probably than Michael even believed in himself.
I think Dad saw, or was curious even, as to what Michael could do in a really, really good car.
The common theme, you know, when we were sitting on the back of the boat or riding around the farm was you'd win in one of my cars. And he would say that a lot. I put you in one of my cars, you'd win. And I think that Dale believed that I was a good driver, but I hadn't done a very good job of managing my career necessarily. That kept me going. That kept me inspired. Mainly because I knew that one of the best ever believed in me. And my desire was burning more than you can imagine, just to get out there in a car and win on Sunday. That's all I could think about.
That is Michael Waltrip, out of control, tri-oval, into a series of sidewinders. 9 shattering snap rolls.
Oh, Michael Waltrip is a little upset here.
Michael Waltrip went over and had words and maybe more with car number 9.
Whoa, now. Oh, whoa, Mikey. Come on, man. Ah!
Hit it right up against the wall.
He hit awful.
His winless streak was definitely, I mean, I tried to ignore it. It was painful to watch. I tried to just be as positive as I could every week. Forget about last week, you know, let's move on to this week. But you know, I never lost confidence in him, and there's a lot of drivers that, you know, they eventually disappear because they don't ever perform well enough in whatever teams they drive for, and then they just kind of, you know, eventually go away. You know, for Michael, I mean, that man is a survivor.
I don't know. You know, anytime things don't go right, you look back and try to figure out how you could fix them. And I just look back and think, I don't think I was bold enough or confident enough to take a chance. When I watched some kids my age get a better ride than me, how do you what do? You quit your job and hope for a better one? I just feel like if I had taken a chance, it might have paid off. You know, that something would come along better than what I had.
Michael was talking to a couple different car owners and options.
I didn't want to settle. I didn't want to just sign it to be racing. Did that a couple times early in my career where I signed again just to know I had a job.
In the summer of 2000, we, at the time, Dale Earnhardt Incorporated had 3 teams, but 2 were in Cup and 1 was in the lower series. And Dale said, I'm only going to race in Cup. And I was like, well, that means you have to have a 3rd Cup car. And he goes, yeah. He said, let's go to Napa and see if Napa would come up with us and go Cup racing. And I looked at him, I said, well, who would you have drive it? And he goes, Michael. We're going to put Michael. And he goes, call Michael right now and see if he's available.
And when it comes to late August, September of a season, plans are pretty much set for the following year. And so my holding out hope was about to run its course.
So I called Michael and I said, hey, I know this is kind of a strange question. I said, have you signed your contract yet?
I didn't sign it.
We were like, don't sign it.
Maybe something's gonna work out.
So we go in, we sit down. Dale and I sat down with the Napa folks. And Dale said, I don't want to do bush races anymore. I want to go Cup racing, and I need to hire a Cup driver. And he goes, well, how much money do you need? And he said, I tell him. And I was like, $9 million. And they were like, okay, so they wrote it down. And he said, who will you have drive for us? It was Bob McKenna who did it. I'll never forget it. And Dale looked at me, and I looked at him, and I looked back at him, and Dale finally says, I'm gonna put Michael Waltrip in that car because I think he can win. And it was like a split-second hesitation, and I'm like, and Bob McKenna goes, you really think you can get him to drive for us?
I was with my mom, she was driving, and my phone rang, and it was Dale. And he was like, where's Michael? It's like, well, I don't know. I guess he's, at the house or at the office. I don't know.
The phone rang, and Dale said, get over here. And I said, what do you need? He said, just do what I said. And sometimes he was like that. And so I drove to his shop, and I said, what's up? And he said, we've been to Atlanta, me and Ty, and we told Napa we wanted to go Cup racing. And we wanted them as a sponsor and you as a driver. And they said they would think about it.
I just know for me, I just kept thinking this would be unbelievable. This would be the best fairy tale story ever. Dale's gonna look like a hero for giving Michael the chance, and Michael's gonna, get the dark cloud off his back.
And then Dale called and said, let's do this. Napa's in, we're going racing. Well, my mom's gonna be really embarrassed. I told her I got a ride with Earnhardt. I just didn't tell her I had to drive that truck, and they won't even turn the hat around. Dale said I only had to drive that truck until I won one of those races on Sunday afternoon, so.
When this thing happened and I called him, Ty Norris and I called him, he said, are you sure now? I mean, we talked about this, nothing ever happened, but this is gonna be a great race team right here. I think we're gonna be a winner before long, and the excitement of it is really good.
But there were a lot of naysayers. I mean, people come up to us all the time and say, man, if you were gonna have that ride, why didn't you talk to me? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? I just said, this is what Dale wanted.
By that point, Dad had said several times, hey, I think the guy can do it. I don't think this is crazy. In my mind, we're building what is going to be the biggest and greatest and most competitive racing team in NASCAR. That's our vision, right? And, you're looking at Michael's record and then you're thinking,
I think how lucky I am to be a NASCAR Winston Cup driver, and how fortunate I am to have a great sponsor like Napa Auto Parts.
The very first commercial Napa made, it was the first part of Michael making fun of himself in a national commercial.
And it's at times like this, looking around at the empty grandstands and listening to the silence of pit road, that I realize
I'm at the wrong track.
And it was a huge hit amongst the fans. They loved it. And everyone would say, Michael, you at the right track? That commercial putting him in the national limelight, it brought what was a natural personality for Michael. It tied him into Dale Earnhardt.
Dad had been on the racetrack with Michael for all these years. He had seen Michael run all these laps. He'd physically been behind him on the racetrack and watched him go through countless corners. So if anyone could judge and be the decision maker on whether Michael belonged in there or not, it had to come from a driver that had experienced that track with Michael. They'd become great friends. They probably had a million conversations about this. You know, Dad probably told him, look, man, you're gonna have to buckle down. You're gonna have to work. You're gonna have to be marketable and do all the things off the track that we need to do, which Michael was excellent at. Whatever needs to happen, Michael does it.
You know, being teammates is about more than just helping each other win races every week. It's also about helping each other learn.
That's right. Michael has taught me that Napa Parts professionals can always help you get the job done right the first time.
Yeah, and Junior taught me how to do this.
I'm not taking credit for that.
So when Dad says, hey man, this is what's gonna happen and I believe it'll work, everybody was like, oh wow, okay. Dad, if Dale believes, this is probably gonna work.
And Dale loved to put that big arm around you and say, I told you so. That was he loved that. All the people you could chosen and driven that car, and you chose Michael? And Dale like put that big arm around people and said, I told you so. I told you he could get the job done.
It was mine and Dale's project. We did it all together. Who's gonna be the crew chief? I don't know, Eggleston's smart. He does a good job. Let's get him. Deal. Who's the spotter? I like my spotter I had a couple years ago. You wanna keep him? Sure. Who's gonna do PR? That'll be up to Napa. They got someone named Brooke. She seems kind of tough.
When I was assigned to Michael, I wasn't happy. I didn't like the things that I had heard about him. I didn't like how cocky he was with the media. He knew he was pretty savvy. He certainly didn't need a publicist to tell him what to do and when to do it.
I'd had some interesting conversations with PR people trying to explain why I didn't win again. And I think I kind of got sideways with most of them.
There was no hiding Michael's wins versus losses. It was 0 and 462, and it was talked about regularly. He just had this guarded, defensive aura when you went down that path. And I think that's because truly he knew he was a winner. He was getting his shot of a lifetime. And why did we have to go and focus on 0 and 462?
It was a new opportunity for me, and I felt like I needed to have a new attitude, and I needed to make sure I respected every part and piece of it, of that chance. And so I gave her the benefit of the doubt, and off we went.
This being the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year, would you rather it be later on in the season?
Oh no, this is the perfect way to kick off a great season for us. We have a couple of months to build new cars and prepare for this race, so when we come to Daytona, we're as prepared as we're going to be all year long. We're fresh and we got our new stuff and we're ready to roll.
Daytona is our Super Bowl. If you just win one, it's still a big, big deal. If you don't win any race in your whole career, if you win Daytona, you're a winner. Okay, and that's the way everybody looks at it.
Welcome to Daytona, Florida and Fox Racing. We've been here all week for Speed Week, and if you're joining us for the first time, you're in for a treat today. Promises to be a truly exciting day of racing.
Dale, welcome to Totally NASCAR.
Great to be here. It's great to be back at Daytona and try to win some of these races.
How about as a car owner? You've got Michael Waltrip joining Dale Jr.
Michael's doing a great job out there in practicing and drafting. I want to see how he does in the qualifying race on Thursday, which I'm in that same race, I think.
Thursday afternoon. It's the qualifying races. We're racing to get our starting spots in the Daytona 500. I was up in the top 5, 6 when I was running through third gear. Instead of shifting at the perfect time, you know, I was focused on making the move, and I'm like, the engine hit the rev limiter, and I lost all my power. And when that happened, cars start going by me, and I grab fourth, and it's too late. And I finished 9th, I think, in my qualifying race, a race that I had put myself in a position to win. You talking about beating yourself up. Like, that's a rookie mistake, and you're 16 years in. You can't do that. I would tell myself, and I would tell Buffy, and I would tell my team. And I was not looking forward to seeing Dale. Two days before the 500, and I'm walking toward my bus, and as I'm heading that way, I pass Dale's bus, and the door swings open. He said, "Hey, get in here." I'm like, I walked in and I said, "Hey man, I'm sorry, that's my fault." He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I should have won that damn race. I messed up." He said, "No, you shouldn't have. I should have won it. You shouldn't have won it. That don't matter. That was yesterday. Here's how we're gonna win the Daytona 500. It was so awesome to hear his response to what I had dwelled on for 24 hours, and his focus on the prize, what mattered. And Dale's like, "We gotta work together. We gotta push, we gotta shove, we gotta push each other, we gotta hang together. Me and you and Dale Jr. We get to the front. When we get to the front, we're gonna stay there." We were gonna work together. We were gonna draft together, we were gonna push, and I found that I loved it. Like I said, yeah, that's perfect, let's do it. But I also didn't find it to be overly realistic because, you know, I'm starting 20th, I think, back that way somewhere, and he's up front, and Dale Jr.'s somewhere in between, and there's 39 other cars out there. You know, how are you gonna do that?
I remember Dad telling me and Michael that we needed to all work together. He goes, "Man, if all three of us help each other all day, just us, one of us will win." And I'm like, "That's a crazy plan. No, that's not gonna." I'm saying this in my head, you know. I'm like, yeah, let's all work together. But in my mind, I'm like, that's silly. I'm just gonna do what I need to do for myself. I'm gonna be selfish, and I'm gonna win this race. If I win it, it's gonna be because of what I did.
That's the first time I'd ever been in a meeting with a car owner that was laying out to me how we were gonna go win the race. And I left that bus a different person. And he very specifically told me exactly how we were gonna go about winning this race.
If I'm a crew chief right now, I'm really kind of concerned about how much tension these guys are feeling. This is the first race of the year, and there's a lot of tension going through the garage area right now.
Who are the great passers in this race?
First and foremost is Earnhardt. I mean, the man comes down here, he looks like he can see air. No matter where he goes, he gets the job done. But even Little League, Dale Earnhardt Jr. back there, who's been learning a good lesson from his daddy, he's going to be tough also.
The anticipation, the drama, the pressure building here as we get closer to NASCAR's greatest race, the Daytona 500, coming up here on Fox.
Entering the 2001 season, Fox was coming on, and Fox Sports was going to mean mainstream every week network coverage.
And so this was a big day. It was Mike Joy, Darrell Waltrip, Larry McReynolds in the booth for the first time.
I was living those moments. You don't realize it at the time, but I'm in the TV booth. I'm a nervous wreck. I've never done anything like that before. and the Daytona 500 get ready to start.
History, speed, excitement, it's all here for NASCAR's biggest race. We're expecting one of the biggest crowds ever. Nearly 250,000 people packing this legendary speedway. And the pressure building, the track, electric. In the end, we'll have one champion, one driver who will make his way through 42 other cars and 500 miles of track to decide who will win the Daytona 500.
The biggest thing you want at Daytona and Talladega, but Daytona is a fast race car. And there was no question. It became pretty obvious that DEI came to play.
That's why they carried a Napa car in right there. I don't see Michael Waltrip around here anymore,
Michael Waltrip had every excuse possible prior to entering the 2001 Daytona 500. Now he had everything he needed. What was he going to do with it? And that's what everybody was waiting around to see.
I woke up that February morning and I'm like, they're not beating me today. It ain't happening.
I got nothing left on the table, man. I gotta fold it all. Every time I trip, find my back up against the wall.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
This is going to be a big chance for even more people to know that Michael Waltrip was a value or Michael Waltrip was a laugh.
Wide in the back straightaway.
The cars were closer than ever. The draft was tighter than ever. The pack was bigger than ever. And as the laps wound down, people were getting more and more desperate. The calm, the patience, they were beginning to run out. And so things kept getting tighter and tighter and closer, and then finally, coming off turn 2, just as I'd gotten to the front of the field, but over half the lead pack done.
And here's another angle.
It's the big one. It's what we've all been fearing. This kind of racing is going to happen.
A horrible crash on the back straightaway. And Tony Stewart goes for one of the wildest rides in recent memory at Daytona.
I sat in my car and I looked in the mirror and saw that black car sitting there, and I thought, wow, it's me and him and Dale Jr., and we're at the front just like he said we'd be.
And so I'm sitting there near the last few laps of that race going, well, Michael's here, Dad's there, he sees me. If I do something, he's gonna go, why'd you do that, you know? And so I'm thinking, man, how do I win this race without screwing this up? You know, I want to win. I don't want Michael to win. I want to win. Dad can run third if that's what he wants to do.
7 laps to go in the biggest race in the world, the greatest race in the world.
Dale was using every line on the track to hold back. I mean, he was a one-man dam.
Whoa! Look at Earnhardt. Sterling got into Earnhardt.
Dale is doing everything he can to keep Sterling behind him because this is a chess match at high speed.
You know, I'm holding this field back to let my guys go. And normally Dale would never make a move like that. It just seemed like something I had never seen before.
Michael Waltrip leads the Daytona 500. Right now, the car behind him is his teammate, Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Dale Jr. and I stayed tight together, and we kept pushing ahead. And Dale was the one that was in the storm. He was executing the plan that he had shared with me. And it was working perfectly.
I truly believe that nobody thought it was really going to happen until the car crossed the finish line.
2 to go, bud. 2 to go.
Out of way.
You're excited, you know, they're in the lead, but you also know that that can change.
You just thought something else was going to take that away. That never in a million years could 0 for 462 turn into a Cinderella story.
Come on, man.
I was off turn 4 and headed for the checkered flag when my spotter said, "They're wrecking behind you."
Big wreck behind them.
Lead them back. Come on.
To the flag.
Come on, Mikey, you got it, man.
You got it. You got it. You got it.
This is all right.
With confetti and champagne and family and friends. And it was just it was a beautiful scene. It was a beautiful sight.
God, I can't believe it's over. Now, let me ask you a question, Darrell. How much better does 1 for 463 sound than 0 for 462? That ain't nothing.
It sounds a whole lot better.
People hung up on my record, I don't care. But I do know this. Me and my brother have both won the Daytona 500.
That's right, brother. That's right, brother. Michael Waltrip has won the Daytona 500.
Just a flood of emotions and, relief in a lot of ways. It just felt like it was just going to make a lot of things that had been difficult and challenging to live with day in and day out so much better.
I think I was in shock. I couldn't believe Dale's plan worked like it did. I couldn't believe I'd won the Daytona 500. I couldn't believe all we had been through to get where we were. We were going to go celebrate the Daytona 500. I just couldn't wait for Dale to get there. I knew when he got there, I was going to get the best hug ever. I was more excited about that hug than I was the trophy or the money. And, that hug never came.
Okay. Schrader has climbed out of his car. He and Earnhardt have crashed together.
I went over there thinking he's going to be aggravated. And we all know what it was very serious. So I didn't, I was surprised.
When I came down, I started asking Danny Culler, his spotter, like, what did Dale say? And he goes, he didn't say anything. He said, Richard's been calling him, but he hasn't responded.
I just thought it was another crash. I seen it on TV. It didn't look that bad. It looked like another tough crash. And I hollered at Dale, hollered at him a couple of times, and he didn't answer me back, which was unusual. So I started walking up through there.
this isn't what you would expect. You know, you usually see the guys get out and, you know, it just looked like it was taking a little bit longer for them to get Dad out or whoever. I couldn't even tell at that point really what the struggle was, what the holdup was, but it was a situation.
As we go off the air, as long as I live, I'll never forget the ambulance comes out of the track. That ambulance was doing 15 miles an hour, maybe 20, just creeping down the road, headed to the hospital.
We were probably 15 minutes in to the press box interviews, and
I'm watching Michael, and I see Brooke. She looked at me and she went like this, like, stop the interviews.
And told them that unfortunately we had to cut the press conference short.
So that made me uncomfortable. I mean, that made me think, oh God.
When we got into the elevator, and Michael and Buffy were in this corner of the elevator, so my right. And I stopped the elevator, and I looked at Michael and Buffy, and I said, I'm so sorry, but we've lost Dale.
I remember wanting to leave. I remember wanting to leave, and I think that's when the reality of it set in, finally.
You know, sometime between the elevator and the van ride and getting in the motorhome and getting, you know, everyone else to leave, I guess it's just that fight or flight. And, you know, I knew I had to be strong. So,
And then being in the bus, just in shock. This perfect day that I dreamed of turned out to be, you know, one of the saddest days of my life.
That one moment that he was supposed to have, in a selfish way, was robbed of that. Then you add in, that's my best friend. Oh yeah, by the way, it's my boss. Oh, by the way, he just hired me and I just won the Daytona 500 for him and I don't get to celebrate with him. When you start adding all those things and you start thinking about
We got to the hospital, and I walked right into Dad's room, and I knew right away when I seen him that it was just as bad as it could be. And I turned around and walked back out of there, and we spent 30 minutes at that hospital before they finally told us that he was gone.
This is undoubtedly one of the toughest announcements that I've ever personally had to make. But after the accident in Turn 4 at the end of the Daytona 500, we've lost Dale Earnhardt.
What are we supposed to do with this? The greatest icon of our sport, he just got killed.
They've come out to drop off flowers, balloons, a t-shirt, or even an old racing hat. They've come to say goodbye to their fallen hero.
We all sat down sometime the next week and said, you know, Dad would want us to be at the racetrack. He'd be really, and it's, you hear people say that when they have loss or they lose, you know, somebody dies, you know, you hear that all the time. Well, they'd want us to keep going, and you think, well, how do you really know what but you do, you know, and Dad would have really been pissed off if we didn't go race.
You know, we had to go racing the next Sunday, and I knew what my responsibility was, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do or needed to do in order to deal with it. And that was to honor my friend and
Racing will go on at Rockingham. Perhaps that will give these drivers and their crews a chance to get together in the garage, laugh a bit, perhaps shed a tear, then go out and race like hell to honor the man in the 3-car.
I've had an incredible week dealing with the loss of Dale and what all it's meant to us. I mean, I was his friend. We all loved to watch him race his car, and those were the things that we're gonna miss. My personal thinking is that when this weekend's over and we've raced, then next week we can talk about winning the Daytona 500. But let this week be a week that we just talk about Dale.
Oh, we got trouble already. 3 cars, 4 cars.
Had to try to move forward, but me and I don't think a lot of others, we didn't move forward very very fast. And then the next week and the next week, they just all started running together, and I had this awesome race car that Dale's team was building me, and I didn't run as well. I don't know, it's probably me not being able to do my job like I was paid to do. And by the time, you know, the return to the Daytona International Speedway for the July 4th race rolled around, like we hadn't done anything at all. And Daytona loomed ahead.
Now tonight, one of the sport's brightest evenings is certainly saddened by one of its darkest moments. This is the first Winston Cup race here at Daytona since Dale Earnhardt was killed in a crash at the conclusion of the Daytona 500 back in February.
I really like this racetrack. It's one of my favorite tracks, and the win here would really mean a lot to me and the rest of the team as well.
Certainly, Dale Earnhardt is on the minds of a lot of fans and a lot of teams. But Benny, these teams have come here to work. as well as remember.
That July race at Daytona in 2001 was one that, will never be forgotten in the history of the sport because of all of the ramifications of this is the first time we're back at Daytona since Dale's death. How is Dale Jr. going to respond? How are the fans going to respond? How's the DEI team going to respond?
Remember those all-night car rides and going through the tunnel and popping up and seeing those banks? Those started in 1975. And for the first time in 2001, I'm going to Daytona, somewhere I don't want to be. And that was confusing. It was hard. But eventually, a couple weeks before, I told Buffy, I said, I'm gonna go get revenge on that place. I'm gonna go win the race. I'm gonna go do a burnout, the biggest victory celebration you've ever seen. And I'm gonna celebrate Dale.
Story, the Daytona 500 winner, coming in here looking for the Daytona sweep.
I think they better look out for Junior because he'll be coming and he will have fire in his eye. This young man wants this one tonight badly.
I didn't have any fear, I'll tell you that. I mean, when you're racing and your dad dies in a crash in the same race you're in, you don't have much fear anymore about dangers and getting hurt. And I felt that empowered me.
Upstairs. Look at Junior go.
There. Up to fourth.
They're still on the bottom of the racetrack. I think they're going to give the outside to Junior.
To the outside of Dave Blaney for second spot. Mayfield pushes him along in the ground.
My car is so dominant. I'm gonna go out here and I'll be surprised if anybody can beat us.
Still there. To the front of Daytona, listen to the crowd.
You can hear the crowd roaring over the sound of the engine.
There was a late pit stop, and I knew I needed to make a great pit stop. I needed to get in and out of my pit in a hurry to get track position so I could go win.
Michael Waltrip slid through his pit stall. He has to back up, and now the whole stock will have to start over. It's still supposed to be 4 tires and loosen him up a little bit for the track bar adjustment. Let's go to Marty.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. is in. He clearly had the best car on that run, and he was not happy with it. A little loose off he was. They made a half pound into the left rear, and they will win the race off pit road.
So now, when they finally get the 15 car ready to go, Michael has nowhere to go.
By the time I backed up, got my tires, I was freaking last. And there was, I don't know, maybe 10 laps to go. And I drove like I've never driven before. Every move I made worked.
Michael Waltrip under Mike Skinner. You got it. Michael Waltrip trying to become the first man to sweep a season at Daytona since 1982. He's up to third. Michael Waltrip dives underneath Bobby Labonte. They bump on the backstretch. Waltrip to second. Elliott Sadler with him.
Coming off the second turn with a couple laps to go, I mean, I'd come from the back and I was all the way to second.
Michael's behind me, and I felt pretty confident about that. I felt good about that because at this point, it started to become this thing. So let's help each other.
Will Michael Waltrip block for Dale Jr.? Will he try to win the race himself? White flag is out. Final lap at Daytona. 180,000 on their feet, screaming wildly.
And I was right on Dale Jr.'s bumper. And we come across and take the white flag, and I'm coming down the back straightaway, and I said, there it is. I'm going to win this damn race. I'm going to win this race. Didn't even try to make the pass. Instantly, I went from thinking I'm blowing by this guy to I'm pushing this guy. I'm gonna push him.
And I came down the front straightaway, and I was going to do these donuts, and when I saw Michael down there too, I was so glad, you know, that he made that decision to join me.
I saw him in there spinning around, and I'm like, well, I'm going to celebrate too.
All right, Mikey, you never got to celebrate the win in February. You celebrate now.
Then Dale Jr. got on my car and we hugged, and you know, I said, this is for your dad, and like, can't believe this, and I said, I love you, buddy, and he said, you too, and then he dove into the crowd and crowd surfed off. I said, kids these days. That night, it just felt like all the pain, all the sadness and sorrow, it was gone. You know, it was gone. It was so real, you know, it was everything you'd hope a celebration would contain, with 150,000 people joining you for it. But fact is, some finish to a race doesn't magically heal you. That has to come from inside. And I convinced myself of that I wanted to be the winner that Dale wanted me to be.
Ain't nothing like going fast at Daytona. You don't have to worry about letting off, cracking the gas, and just go. It's just the biggest thrill I've ever had.
Why would you want to do something that you know darn well could kill you?
I had never wanted to do anything else. I never ever wanted anything as much as I want racing, or enjoy it, or like it, or would give up most anything in life to have it.
Why?
I was born in me, bred in me, I reckon. I think racing, that's all I think. I have let it get in my way of personal feelings a lot of times, and I've chosen racing a lot every time.
if you take what happened on that February day and look at it, it wasn't tragic. I mean, that's hard to say, but it was a moment when a man was doing just what he wanted to do, and he was taken from us. But he was racing with a purpose. He was helping his buddy, he was helping his son. He was right where he wanted to be. And the results for us on Earth, it feels tragic, but for him, it could have been majestic, where he thought, there you go, I'll leave y'all with that. That's my final act. That could very well be true.
Mm-hmm.